I'm Jason Kiefer from One More and I'm out of here. This is Illegal Shift. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the passing of a legend, the hit king Pete Rose. Also, a replacement in Kansas City for Rashee Rice. The Ravens raving back in the AFC. Von Miller in trouble again. The Cowboys going kaput. We're also going to cover our picks from week 4 and predictions for week 5, which are every bit as good as what you'd get from ESPN. Keith, with your permission, I'll go ahead and start the show.
Let's burn this candle, baby.
Let's light it. Let's light the candle.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the
Giving them business down there. That's a 15-yard penalty.
There was no foul on the play. It was not a hold. The defender was just overpowered.
Illegal shift on the kicking team. That penalty is refused. First down.
Guns up, giddy up, Wolfpack. It's Failure to Stop's Illegal Shift. It's the only show on Failure to Stop that you're not watching. I'm John. I'm a number 1 dispatcher, and that's what qualifies me to come on here and talk about sports. That's right. It's a first responder sports show. We're not in competition with anyone. We're just here to talk to first responders about sports. Tansy just had a show about the world ending. So if you wanted to have a break from that and think about something else, I think you're entitled to do that, particularly as a first responder. Isn't your job stressful enough? Keith is a lieutenant of a fire department somewhere in the Buckeye State. He's also the host of One More and I'm Out of Here, a podcast which frankly puts Ohio on the map. Keith, how are you doing?
Well, much better with that introduction, my man.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You too. How's the past week been? I mean, other than the bad news, how's your life going?
That was good. End of last week, we got caught with the remnants of that hurricane, so work sucked. We were busy with storms and storm damage, but definitely nowhere near what the Florida coast and Carolinas and Georgia had to deal with. So
Ohio doesn't get hit by hurricanes a lot.
Not often. This is the second one since I've been around.
Yeah, it's you can tell the hurricane really means it when it goes after the Ohioans.
The first one was Hurricane Ike.
How long ago was Ike?
That was 2006-ish.
That was a long time ago. Yeah,
I remember I had people over watching the Bengals play the Titans at home, and literally watched Shane Graham kick a field goal that went directly like left turn, put a left turn signal on, and all of a sudden we lost power. And I'm like, holy shit, and go outside, and it was crazy. But I got a new roof out of it, so that worked out well.
Was that game in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Okay. It's uncommon for there to be a football game in Cincinnati in which all of a sudden everything gets destroyed. But with the Ravens coming to town this weekend, you could probably look for more of the same.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous, my man.
You're a little nervous. Just wanted to acknowledge Hydro Man Blue in the chats. I haven't seen him for about 100 years. Hydro, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought you were dead. I did. I thought something bad happened to you. And I've been thinking about you, Hydro Man Blue, and apparently you're alive and well. You just hate me now, which is fine. I would rather have you alive and hating me rather than whatever. So let's pay the bills.
Let's do it.
This show is thanks to me and Keith. We don't have to mention Ghost Bed because it's a members only show. However, if you want to, you can go to ghostbed.com. You can use the offer code Wolfpack. You could save up to 40% there. It's a great website to go to. You can find everything that you need there to get good mattresses, everything that you need for a good night's sleep, adjustable frames, cooling technology, preferential treatment for veterans of any war from any country. And by the way, everyone's about to become a veteran, so that's pretty cool. But go over there, use the offer code Wolfpack. That's how we keep the show going. We appreciate them supporting Failure to Stop from the very beginning. They're a wonderful company, and frankly, that's what keeps us from going broke around here. So our thanks to them. If you wanted to show them some support, we would appreciate it because it keeps us going. Failure to Stop is also brought to you by the Zimbabwe Unity Movement, a short-lived political movement in Zimbabwe. It served as a successor to and the link to the Conservative Alliance of Zimbabwe. Of course, Edgar Thekgere ran as a presidential candidate in the 1990 Zimbabwean presidential election against Robert Mugabe. So our thanks,
old Robert.
Yes, good old him. Is he still alive? So thanks to the Zimbabwe Unity Movement for supporting Failure to Stop as well. We knew it was an unusual one, but you did support us. I'm sad to report that Robert Mugabe passed away in 2019. So for those of you who are just finding out about Robert Mugabe, my condolences. I also just found out live on the air. Yes, take a moment of reflection for the contribution to this country and to podcasting that Robert Mugabe brought. So thank you. And good luck to Zimbabwe and its movement towards unity. I know that, Keith, you're kind of more of a Zimbabwean chaos guy. So, I appreciate that you're holding your peace here. So
I'm not sure what gave it away.
Yeah, well, it could just be that you have no idea what I'm talking about as per usual, but that's all right. Then we're going to kind of tee it off with some major news in the sports realm. We're going to let Keith really talk about this quite a bit because this is a subject that's near and dear to his heart, and I think it would be wrong for me to just jump in here and talk about it a lot. I remember when Larry Allen passed away, you sort of just let me have my own space to discuss it, but Pete Rose, the hit king, Charlie Hustle, a major figure in sports. He's referred to as controversial. However, I would like to know where the controversy is because I have yet to hear anyone talk about how Pete Rose was a bad guy. Back in 1991 when they decided to disallow anyone who had been banned from the game from entering the Hall of Fame, a lot of people had opinions about Pete Rose, but I think our changing views towards gambling and sports have sort of washed away the controversy about Pete Rose. And I think most people feel like he belongs in the Baseball Hall of Fame, particularly since the MLB now has official partnerships with sports books. That's right. Now that they can get money out of it, it's perfectly fine. But when Pete Rose did it, it was apparently some sort of disgrace. But Keith, what are your thoughts on it?
This city is like there's a black veil over this city the last couple days. I mean, he was Cincinnati. I mean, even if you weren't a baseball fan, you knew who Pete Rose was. 4,256 hit leader. He passed Ty Cobb. What was it? September 11th, 1985, with 41.92. I
have thoughts on Ty Cobb. Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Ty Cobb beat people up in the stands. He once beat up a war veteran who didn't have any arms. That's how bad of a guy Ty Cobb was. Ty Cobb doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Ty Cobb is in the Hall of Fame.
Alcoholic, woman beater,
spectator beater. I don't remember Pete Rose ever going up into the stands and beating up an amputee.
If anything, it was a horse that didn't win. That's what he would beat. But no, I mean, once we heard it, and somebody sent me a screenshot, and TMZ Sports was the first, and I'm like, I want to fact check this, and couldn't find anything, and then probably about 20 minutes later, then it just started flooding, and he was old. I mean, he was 83, but it's still just one of those people you just don't expect to die. Not that I had the thoughts that he was going to live forever, but it's just very, very shocking. And the things that he did for Cincinnati while he was here, once he was out of baseball, he moved to Vegas, but he often came back and would frequent, a lot of the restaurants around, and always would talk to people, sign autographs, take pictures, whatever. But I had the joy of being able to hang out with him in a couple different arenas, with my brother and whatnot. But and the stories he would tell. He was a ball player, and then also a ball player's manager. I mean, everybody that played for him absolutely loved him. But the fact that he lied about it when it came out, that he said, I didn't bet on baseball, and then I think it was either 15 or 17 years later, then he admitted that he did. But it was all right, wrong, or indifferent. He never bet on his team to lose. He was always betting on him to win, so it wasn't like he was throwing games.
If anything, he was more invested than other people.
Exactly. And yeah, we just had this discussion yesterday up at the bar with a bunch of buddies. They're like, just to your point, sports betting is everywhere now. You have sports betting cages in stadiums. Now, granted, I realize the players aren't allowed to bet on premises. Now, technically, they're not supposed to bet at all. But who was it? Who was it from Atlanta last year? Was it last year that got suspended for the whole year because he was making bets in the locker room?
I don't remember. Oh, you mean for the Lions, or who do you mean?
No, the Falcons.
I don't remember,
I
but
can't remember.
it's happening in the NFL. You're right.
Yeah, so it's widespread across sports, and everything has evolved. So the fact that I think most of the people in this city are pissed off that he didn't at least get on the ballot before he died. Now he's gone, so he'll get put in, posthumously, but that's horseshit in my opinion. But obviously, I'm a homer and I'm a huge Pete Rose fan. But just very sad. I mean, one of the most iconic baseball players that's ever played the game since its inception, and it's just one of those things. Like I was going back looking at all the pictures I have and memorabilia of his that I have. I've got 2 baseballs over here signed by him. It's just weird. It's very strange, but a bunch of people went down to the stadium that night, and there's a bronze. We got a bunch of bronze statues at our stadium, and one of them's him, head first sliding. Really, really cool. People, putting bouquets of roses out there for him, and it's pretty neat.
You mentioned how strange it was that he passed away. In many ways, that's a turning of a page in life. And, I don't want to get too poetic, but, I just turned 40. So I just turned a major corner in life, and I'm not going to make it about me, but you get to a certain point in life where not only have a great deal of your friends and family have passed away, that's just part of life, but also just major figures. Like you said, you never thought that this was going to happen, but of course it was inevitable. And we all have heroes and people that we look to, and just people who are a part of life when we were young. And as they pass away before us, it's sort of a marker or a signpost, just that we're all mortal and that things are changing, and it can impact each of us differently. And there's many people out there who don't care about Pete Rose, and he was never important to them, but everybody does have somebody in their life that, whether it's a significant figure, a historical figure, a popular figure, or whoever, that when they pass away, it does affect us. And it's okay if Pete Rose is that person for you.
I know you're not a huge baseball fan, but I don't know if you've heard of the Big Red Machine.
I'm very aware of Pete Rose. I mean, he was even on an episode of, I think he was in an episode of Seinfeld. Maybe I'm thinking of Keith Hernandez, but they would talk about Pete Rose, obviously. But
so the cool thing was that 24 hours before, he was in Nashville doing an autograph signing with his teammates from Big Red Machine: Ken Griffey, Tony Perez, Joe Foster, a bunch of those guys. So 24 hours before he passed, he at least, and my buddy put it the best, he got to high five his buddies one last time, which I thought was pretty kind of cathartic.
I also like that he got to comment on the Shohei Ohtani scandal, where Shohei Ohtani had kind of a patsy, someone that he could blame for his own betting stuff, and Pete Rose got to crack wise about that. Let me ask you, do you think it was enough that Pete Rose is in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame? Do you think that him being lauded by baseball fans and Cincinnati fans, unquestioned as a great figure in the history of Major League Baseball, but also the Reds and the other teams that he played for, do you think that was enough for him, or do you think it's still stuck in his craw that he was never in Cooperstown? Or how do you think that he left this world feeling about the mark that he left on baseball?
I think it definitely got to him. I don't think that was something that they just released a documentary 2 months ago, something like that, that they asked him, he said, I would really like to be on the ballot before I die. And he goes, not just for me, but for the fans and for family. He goes, that's what that's for. So, I mean, he did push it off onto, that he wanted it for his family, probably first and foremost, and the fans. Not so much for himself, but come on, any guy that invests, any person that invests that much time and effort and has excelled wants to be in whatever that is, whatever that Hall of Fame may be.
Now, you said a posthumous entry into the Hall of Fame would be a crock of shit or something similar to that. You think if he does get inducted posthumously that people are going to have negative feelings about that, as though like too little, too late, no thank you? Or do you think it will finally be something that assuages people's upset or angry feelings about him being excluded?
I think it's going to be a little bit of both. You're going to have people like me that are like, you know what? I'm glad he's in, but fuck you for not doing it earlier. Because now all of a sudden, now that he's dead, he's allowed to be in. But I think it's going to be resounding yes that he will get in at some point. But I think it's going to be mixed feelings.
There is precedence for this. For example, 6,000 years ago, when Moses was trying to get water from a rock, he was supposed to speak to it. Instead, he hit it with his staff. And for this, he was forbidden from going into the promised land until after he was dead. This is very similar to that. So I'm sure that you could kind of see the direct parallel there with Moses, if I may lighten it up a little bit.
You nailed it.
He in a sense, Pete Rose has paid his penance. The fact that he never got to see the promised land while he was alive. I think that whatever the scandal was, whatever the angry or hurt feelings were in 1991, I think time and vantage point has put those to bed, but also just changing views on gambling. And certainly Major League Baseball's they've probably handed over commissionerships since then. Keith, I guess you're going to be the expert on that.
Yeah.
So I think that just time and distance has maybe changed the way that we've thought about Pete Rose. And we can also just remember him as a great player and someone who did a lot of things for Major League Baseball. It's certainly not a perfect figure, but who among us is perfect?
The messed up part too is Bart Giamatti was considering and was going to put a release out that he was going to consider reinstating Pete Rose, and then he died 2 days later. Or 2 days before he could do that.
Sometimes it goes that way, though. Have you ever had it where you've lost someone you love in close succession with someone else? Like, for example, my grandparents died 2 days apart. Maybe Pete Rose was maybe his soul was hanging on for some sort of good news, and then something like this comes out, and I don't know, it's enough for him. Like, okay, it's I can go on. I don't know. That sounds schmaltzy even, but I believe that it might be true just because I've seen examples like that in real life. And if you've got a legacy or something that you've devoted your life to, I could see where maybe getting a break would be a part of that. I don't know. It's a little bit transcendental for a first responder sports show, but maybe that's what's happened. Should I read a little bit from the Fox News article just to talk about Pete Rose, or do you feel like we covered it well?
No, read what you got.
I'll read it. This was sent to me by you. This is from Fox Sports, a division of the Walt Disney Company. Pete Rose, Major League Baseball's polarizing all-time hits leader, dead at 83. Rose totaled 4,256 hits over 24 seasons with the Reds, the Phillies, and the also late Montreal Expos. Pete Rose, the polarizing MLB all-time hit leader, has a legendary career. Has died at 83. The Clark County coroner in Nevada confirmed Rose's death to the Fox News Channel. Rose's agent, Ryan Feiderman of Feiderman Sports, confirmed the death to TMZ. He spoke to the outlet and saying the family is asking for privacy at this time. Rose broke out with his hometown Cincinnati Reds, the team he played 19 of his 24 seasons with, 3 of which also served as acting manager. In 1963, he went on out to make league history while securing 3 World Series along the way. He was nicknamed Charlie Hustle for his relentless drive when on the diamond. Rose was the league most valuable player in 1973, a 17-time All-Star, 3-time batting title winner, Rookie of the Year, and the World Series MVP in his career. What makes Rose polarizing, of course, is his gambling scandal that shocked everyone in August of 1989, the last year as manager for the Reds. Rose was permanently banned from baseball over accusations that he bet on games while he played and managed the Reds. Since the Baseball Hall of Fame voted in 91 to ban those who are on the permanently ineligible list from ever being inducted, MLB's hit king remains out of Cooperstown's storied halls. He did later admit in 2004 that he did bet on baseball games and the Reds. And a June 2015 investigation by ESPN found that Rose did indeed bet on baseball while serving as a player and manager for the Reds, with records on the bets made public. Rose tried to apply for reinstatement to the Hall of Fame on several occasions, but they've all been denied. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred denied one in 2015, saying that Rose did not take responsibility for his actions and didn't understand the damage he had caused while betting on the game. You know, a lot of this is retrospect over the, I believe, 1919 Chicago Black Sox scandal, which 100 years ago.
And they also threw games.
Yes, they threw the World Series, which is a completely different thing than what Pete Rose was accused of doing.
Right.
Rose applied for reinstatement in 2020 and 2022, especially with legalized sports betting happening across the country. Manfred denied both requests, pointing to the Veterans Committee for any Hall of Fame discussions regarding Rose. Manfred also shot down any speculation about Rose's reinstatement in 2023. As the league had partnerships with sports books, so again, Major League Baseball is allowed to do business with them and make money from them and shake their hands, but we can't forgive Pete Rose. There's no denying that Rose would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer had voters had the chance to check off his name in 1992. He was a switch hitter. He not only leads MLB in all-time hits, but he also had the most games played, most at-bats, and singles recorded. He owned a career 303, 375, 409 slash line with 746 doubles, 1,314 RBI, and 160 home runs. Also, Rose's ability to play all over the field made him such a weapon for the Reds, Phillies, and Expos, as he played second base, left and right field, third base, and first base during his time in the league. Both of his gold gloves, though, came while he was an outfielder in 69 and 70.
With his 17 All-Star game appearances, he's the only player to do that 17 at 5 different positions.
While Rose led Major League Baseball in hits in 7 seasons over his 24 years, he was only MVP once in 1973, a year he hit 338, 401, 437 with 230 base knocks. Rose led what became known as the Big Red Machine to the National League Pennant Series against the New York Mets. Rose wouldn't have been able to win 2 of the World Series if it wasn't for fellow Big Red Machine teammates, including Joe Morgan, Tony Perez, and Johnny Bench, all players who reside in Cooperstown today. Rose played for the Reds from 63 to 78 before joining the Phillies in 79, where he led the National League in on-base percentage in his first season. The Phillies would go on to win the 1980 World Series, the first in the franchise's history. Rose played 4.5 seasons with the Phillies before a mid-year trade to the Montreal Expos in 84. He would return to Cincinnati to act as player manager from 84 to 86, and he would break Ty Cobb's all-time hits record in 85 with Cincinnati on September 11th with a single against San Diego. He called it quits for his playing career, but remained in his managerial chair. Though he is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, the Reds inducted Rose into their own Hall of Fame at 26, and they have retired in 2016, and they retired his number 14 on his jersey number. Rose's career may be clouded with infamy, which, by the way, I refute, but there is no doubting that he is one of our greatest players ever to step on the baseball field, which I do not refute, because even someone like me, totally outside of baseball, I have known who Pete Rose is, and that's a testament to his greatness, not only to the city of Cincinnati, and not only just to baseball, but to our culture. He's someone who figures largely in that, and I believe someday he will be inducted, and he wants to go in. So I think that although it may feel a little too late, I think in time and space, your feelings of anger about it being too little too late will go away too. And I think eventually it's all just going to work out, Keith, where everything's going to be rectified. He's going to have this career that gets immortalized not only in Cincinnati, but in Cooperstown. And future generations who are far removed from his scandal will eventually see that as a little more than a footnote compared to his statistics and his history. And so just have a little faith that history is going to work out like it should.
Right. Absolutely. No, I agree with you. It's just, right now it's, salt water that you have to drink, I guess.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rashee Rice,
Yes.
a guy that wide receiver who just left the scene of an injury crash. Oh, wait, is that news from this past summer? Of course, we talked about Rashee Rice on the show because he was driving, was it a Lamborghini or a minivan or something? I don't know what it was. One of those two things.
It was a Lamborghini SUV, which I'd never seen.
It was a Lamborghini SUV. All right. I remember that the vehicle was confusing.
Right.
He was down in Texas and he was racing, but not driving, apparently, when a crash occurred. He fled the scene, and many people were left with painful injuries. And I thought, man, Rashee Rice is just, he's never going to know how this feels. But apparently he's sustained serious injury after a collision with none other than Patrick Mahomes. Irony of ironies. The Chiefs may now be in trouble. Keith, let me just go on to say that at first I felt happy about this because I don't want the Chiefs to be looking at it some sort of three-peat, which they would be the first team in NFL history to win the Super Bowl 3 times in a row. If the Cowboys can't do it and the Patriots can't do it, I sure as hell don't want to see the Chiefs doing it.
Very, very true.
I actually hate the Chiefs more than the Patriots. I don't know why, but I do. I can't explain it because really for 20 years, the Patriots sort of ruined football for everyone. So, but now the Chiefs seem to be doing the same thing. But the reason why I'm not happy now is because they certainly faced challenges, uphill struggles last year. Patrick Mahomes was able to put the team on his shoulders, carry them to victory past the San Francisco 49ers. A team I do hate more than the Chiefs. I don't know. It's always hard measuring hate. I feel like an Eagles fan now where because the Cowboys aren't successful, I'm just talking about teams I hate now. Hate's one of those things that can carry you through times in which you have little joy. So I'm definitely being bolstered by hate right now. But anyway, this whole narrative about Rashee Rice going down in week 4 is now going to be part of a social media montage and a year in review in which the Chiefs had their doubters. But look, we won the Super Bowl. We went for a three-peat and nobody believed in us, which the Chiefs are like the most powerful team in the NFL. If there is a football god, he definitely loves the Chiefs. And now the Chiefs are yet again able to develop this sort of like bizarre underdog status, which is totally undeserved because, as I said, Patrick Mahomes is sort of the heir apparent to the Tom Brady greatest of all time, conversation, at least of this era. And I hate the idea that the Chiefs could continue to carry on as an underdog because I hate the Chiefs. What are your thoughts about that and the Chiefs developing an underdog story or narrative in week 4?
Well, it's very, very public, my thoughts on the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And you and I are in complete agreement in the fact that they will try to spin this and be like, oh my God, look at what we did. Fuck Patrick Mahomes. Fuck Patrick Kelsey or Travis Kelsey. It got what he deserved. I'll put it out there on the interwebs. You leave the scene of an accident hurting people, and your own quarterback takes out your knee. Perfect ending.
As that lady said about Brett Favre, karma never forgets an address. I don't know if you saw that she said that.
Yes.
The lady who worked for the Jets when Brett Favre worked there, and once people were sending her the articles when it was announced that Brett Favre had Parkinson's, that's what she said. She said karma never forgets an address. So apparently karma making its rounds this week as well, not taking the week off due to rain or the hurricane or anything else. This is from NFL.com, so you're getting it straight from the source, possibly written by some Ian Rappaport crony. The best laid plans of Meister's Super Bowl champs often go awry. After struggling through an inadequate receiver play in 2023, Kansas City entered the offseason with apparent designs in opening up the offense in ways we'd not seen since the days of Tyreek Hill. That guy that likes to mouth off and not cooperate with police officers. Oh, wait, we've forgiven him for that, haven't we?
Right.
I just can't help but notice that Pete Rose never got into a confrontation with police. And Tyreek Hill is probably one of those ones that goes into the Hall of Fame. As an aside, Keith, I think we induct football players in the Hall of Fame way too easily.
I agree.
It's like we have to let in, 10 guys every year. And so we're just like, we'll just take the 10 best guys. We never stop to think, maybe there aren't 10 candidates who are eligible this year. Maybe we should just send it in 3. We don't have to drive the speed limit. We don't have to go as fast as possible. And we don't have to bring in the max number of candidates every year. We should keep the Hall of Fame pure. But now let's get Brian Urlacher in here, you know? And that's not nothing against Brian Urlacher, but I mean, how does he figure into the 104-year history of the NFL? Maybe he figures in prominently if you're a Brian Urlacher fan or whatever. You know, I'm not trying to take away anything from that specific guy. My point is just that we're always bringing in somebody, and I guess I would like to know how they compare to, say, Bronco Nagurski, okay? Anyway, general manager Brett Veach signed Hollywood Brown in free agency and traded up in the first round to draft the speedster Xavier Worthy. The plan seemed clear. Worthy would be the top off speedster. Brown would be an intermediate prowler with field stretching potential. Rashee Rice would exploit defenses off the line. And after the catch, and Travis Kelce would do Travis Kelce things, making linebackers look foolish in space. However, Travis Kelce being a big jabroni out there, just like he is in real life. A month in, and that plan has been seen a wrecking ball fly through it. Brown suffered a preseason shoulder injury, and despite early optimism that he'd be back soon, underwent joint surgery. It's expected that to knock him out for months, with a potential playoff return being likely as his best case scenario. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs plowed forward, starting off undefeated despite some passing struggles. And then in week 2, another bummer, Isaiah Pacheco, the running back, and the offense's Energizer Bunny going down, landing on injured reserve. And on Sunday, the hits kept coming. Rice was carted off as Mahomes collided with his knee after attempting a tackle following an interception. It's feared that Rice has a torn ACL, which is a serious injury. The double whammy took out the Chiefs' most productive player, leaving a massive void on the roster as they attempt to go for the three-peat. Even without catching a single pass in week 4, Rice still leads in all Kansas City players on 288 receiving yards. He has 130 more than Kelce. With Rice and Brown down, Kansas City receiver corps is led by Xavier Worthy, a rookie with speed, still finding his way. Justin Watson, a declining. Juju Smith-Schuster, a disappointing former second-round pick. Sky Moore, and retread. Boy, that's mean. Cole Hardman. Would you ever want to be called a retread?
A retread. Yeah, that's not the adjective that I would like.
Man, it sucks. A 34-year-old Kelce remains to draw attention, and fellow tight end Noah Gray has proved useful, but his pass-catching group does not have a lot of upside or proven reliability. Not here to suggest that the Chiefs will be sunk without Rice. It is never with the best player in the game still supporting a red number 15. But the Chiefs want a chance to lift a third straight Lombardi. The offense needs help. With the November 5 trade deadline coming, it looks like a few fits ranging from splash plays to veteran depth additions. One caveat, they won't get to the salary cap machinations for each year's player situation here. The Chiefs have a $4.93 million in cap space. It would take some maneuvering from Veach to work out the details, but we know teams can manipulate the cap if they genuinely desire to add a player. Yeah, the cap doesn't mean much because they just be like, oh, we'll just bring you over and it's all signing bonus or something. And I don't know how all that works, but
we'll put this money in this bucket and just hold on to it for a little while. Yeah,
pretty much.
I don't get it. I don't get it either.
Yeah. There's so much maneuvering around the salary cap. It's almost like the salary cap doesn't exist. I mean, the only teams that you hear out there that can't hire anybody is the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones invented the salary cap. So anyway, let's not let the accounting get in the way of a good time, people.
Yeah.
So
it's just money. Who cares?
Yeah, so it's good to see the Chiefs are struggling, but as I said, this is all just going to be part of some 30-minute montage while everyone's eating chips and drinking beer before the kickoff of the next Super Bowl when someone sits down Travis Kelce and it's Bob Costas or some Bob Costas fucking clone. Now, way back at the beginning of the year, no one thought the Chiefs could do it, but you did it again, didn't you? And then, Travis Kelce or someone could be like, yeah, because we're the best there is that ever was.
We knew it the whole time. We
knew it the whole time. We never gave up hope, Which right now I hope they're giving up hope, but just because I want them to actually feel that, because that's frankly how I feel.
With that article in the list of players that potentially they could trade for or whatever, and it ironically just popped up on my television, but they had Devontae Adams in there from the Raiders, and I don't know how they would do that financially, but now they're saying that, what are the chances that Devontae Adams joins Aaron Rodgers and the Jets? So it's just
Adams does go wherever he goes. So
this is going to be a Brandon Ayuk situation because
could be.
Adams wants a trade. He's already said he wants a trade out of Las Vegas. So we'll have a Devontae Adams watch at some point now.
Cowboys fans are looking at Amari Cooper, whose deal has been restructured in Cleveland, for him to be a very tradable wide receiver. Of course, he did great things when he was with the Cowboys after leaving the Raiders. However, if the Kansas City Chiefs are able to make him an excellent deal, the Chiefs might play spoilers and we might not get Amari Cooper back. So that is the one downside for me as a Cowboys fan, that the Chiefs are out there definitely able to draw, and they're definitely able to get any talented trade prospect or free agent if one suddenly becomes available, because who the hell doesn't want to win a Super Bowl and play with the Chiefs? It's like throwing in with Tom Brady with the Buccaneers back in 2021 or whatever it was, or the Rams right before that when they basically bought an all-star team. If you can just hop onto if you can literally, as part of your career, be a bandwagoner and just jump in there and win a Super Bowl. Especially, you don't have to go to a mini camp and all these other things. Like, you just get to jump in like halfway through. You just swap sides. Why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
Wanted to talk about Von Miller, this wonderful guy, former Super Bowl champ. We talked about it a little bit in the offseason, that he had a claim of domestic battery against him. And, I got to pump my own brakes, because I am one of these guys where I've talked about this on the show plenty of times, where people who are outside of football, I think of people like my sister, people who just automatically hate football players anytime a finger of accusation is pointed at them, and they think they must be guilty because they're divas, they're very well paid. There's some sort of envy or animosity almost sort of built in, as much as there is adoration and respect. The thing is Von Miller's a private citizen, a United States citizen. He's subject to constitutional protections, including due process. He's also innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and he's also caught up in millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And there are people out there who might try to exploit his situation for financial gain, because let's face it, gang, you can make an accusation and it looks bad even if it's totally untrue, and you could be paid large sums of money to go away. And it's strange how you can have leverage over people who are very wealthy. But let's talk about this also from NFL.com. Bills linebacker Von Miller suspended 4 games for violating the league's personal conduct policy. That's right. The NFL actually has a rule about punching pregnant women, which is good, I guess. I mean, I
like Ron Burgundy.
They have rules about punching pregnant women?
Question mark.
Buffalo Bills outside linebacker Von Miller has been suspended 4 games without pay for violating the league's personal conduct policy. Miller will be eligible for reinstatement on October 28th following the Bills' Week 8 game against the Seattle Seahawks. 34-year-old Miller turned himself into police in suburban Dallas on November 30th after being accused, this was last November, after being accused by police of third degree. It's weird that the police accused him. You would think that someone else made a complaint to the police of third degree felony assault of a pregnant woman, which is punishable by 2 to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. It's also possible that if you punch a pregnant woman, as long as you get high on fentanyl and attempt to pass a bad check, as long as a police officer comes along and kills you, you could become a saint. So if you think about it, like, Von Miller has also checked off one of 4 things you need to do to become a very, very big deal in the criminal world. So good job to him.
Get a statue made for you.
Yeah, you'll have a statue made of you and murals about how you should rest in power and all this. So anyway,
that was perfect. I love it.
My disgust is very obvious here. He was free after posting a $5,000 bond, which is not very much for him. Again, he could be walking through the parking lot somewhere and $5,000 could accidentally fall out of his pocket. The woman and Miller have been in a relationship for 7 years, and they have 2 children together. You would definitely call that a domestic situation. No charges were filed against Miller, and he told reporters during training camp that he considered the case of him as being closed based on the feedback that he received from his legal representative. So Miller's appeared in all 4 games from the Bills this season. He's recorded 3 sacks. So somehow he didn't break the law to the point where charges can be brought against him beyond a reasonable doubt. But the NFL believes that he did something wrong and is going to suspend him 4 games. How can you live in that netherworld where, the police are not going to bring charges against you? You're not going to be indicted. A jury doesn't believe there's enough evidence to bring charges against you in Dallas. In other words, that's what a lack of indictment indicates, is that, the state's is not able to make the case that he punched somebody. But the NFL believes this woman saying that she was punched, and I'm not saying she wasn't. I'm just saying the NFL believes her and has decided to suspend him 4 games. So
Well, I wanted to ask,
somehow this situation's unfair. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
he's either innocent, didn't do anything, in which case he shouldn't be suspended, or if he did do it and he should be suspended, he should also be facing charges. How does he get to have it both ways, Keith?
and I feel like we talked about somebody else that was in this situation where he didn't get legally charged, but then the NFL came in and put their own sanctions on him. And
What happened to Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, it's a perfect example. And I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand this. They have their conduct policy, but if he wasn't found guilty of anything, no charges were brought against him, then what policy of conduct did he break? Like, I just don't understand it. Now, if he's a piece of shit, he's a piece of shit, and I'm all about it. But the fact that she didn't file charges, and it was a misunderstanding, whatever. And we hear about these things all the time, just in day-to-day life. Like, I don't want to file charges. I'm afraid he's going to do something worse or whatever. And if that's the case,
or she just wants to sue him and get money out of it, which is an easier burden to meet because it's just preponderance of evidence in a civil case. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't understand how now the NFL is the governing body of all. It's almost like it's higher than law enforcement.
Well, you mentioned that
judicial system.
And if you think about it, the NFL actually has quite a bit of money and power, and probably investigators. I have no doubt that they do, in order to get to the bottom of things, perhaps even more than the Dallas Police Department. If you think about it, the NFL is a little bit bigger than Dallas PD.
No, you're right. That part of it, yeah, that's absolutely correct. But
let me mention this though. So if the NFL investigators, you could be a private investigator. That's a thing. I would love to be a PI for the NFL. It sounds like a cool job.
Right.
Maybe it is.
Totally do it.
But yeah, just because football is cool and being a private eye just seems cool to men. Like, I don't think you could really find a man who does it, who, if he could be good as a private eye and make money doing it, that he wouldn't do it. If we could all just live our lives like the Rockford Files, I think every man would. That's like the ideal, like living in a trailer on the beach, $200 a day plus expenses, which is still more money than I make, because what Jim Rockford's fee was in like 1975. But anyway. So if the NFL's investigators found compelling evidence on their own, in their own investigation, whether it was an interview with this woman, interview with witnesses, photos, whatever, if they found compelling reasons to get Von Miller suspended 4 games, if they found something that the Dallas police didn't find or other investigators didn't find, why not turn over that evidence to prosecutors? Is it because it would make the NFL look bad? In some sense, they can handle it and internally and administratively punish him to dissuade other players from doing the same thing. But at the same time, if they brought evidence forward, took it to the state, obviously the NFL already has a complicated history with players with domestic violence. We talked about it on one of our earliest episodes, how it's actually not the case, how NFL players generally have a lower arrest rate than the rest of society. NFL players, if they were a closed society, they'd be a more perfect society than the one we have in real life. And domestic violence is not even one of the biggest crimes of which they're often arrested when they are. But I think that they wouldn't turn over that stuff to the law just because it would make the NFL look bad by association. Keith, what do you think?
No, yeah, I think it's definitely a case of saving face. And here, let me get him out of jail. Not that he was in jail, but let me get him out of jail. Take him back. I'll beat the shit out of him, and
yeah,
you'll never see him again.
Yeah, it's like dad picking up a kid from school and just, don't worry, I'll take care of this, and the kid gets the shit spanked out of him, and kid doesn't get suspended by the school or anything. It's just, we'll handle it internally. Kind of makes you mad though, because it kind of suggests that maybe the NFL has some kind of evidence of a crime being perpetrated against a pregnant woman and is holding on to that. So if you think about it, and I'm being a bit of a conspiracy theorist here, it's possible that the NFL is just like, you know what, we don't have criminal standards around here. We can do whatever we want to with you, and we're pretty sure that you did this. So fuck you, dude. You're getting suspended 4 games, and you're getting off easy. It could be that the NFL is doing a great job. I don't know. But I'm just always suspicious of their motivations because, of course, the NFL has skin in the game. They want to protect themselves.
Yeah. They want to protect that face.
They want to save money. They want to save themselves from bad press. Looks like there's another article here about it. I'm going to see if there's anything else that kind of reveals anything here. The NFL did not reveal the reason for the suspension. He's eligible to rejoin their home game against Miami November 3. He was accused last November of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend in their home outside of Dallas during the bye week. He turned himself in. He's facing 2 to 10 years and $10,000 fine. This is what Von Miller says. My life is all about football right now and my kids and being the best teammate and best football player I could possibly be. I'm happy to be here with the Bills. I'm happy to just be in this moment, living my life and doing the things that we do normally. 35-year-old has 3 sacks, failed to get one in 14 games last season, including the playoffs after he had a knee injury.
Murr brings up a good point in the chats. Says if the NFL found proof of the crime and didn't turn it over, wouldn't that be a crime itself?
There is a certain thing called misprision of a felony, where if you have evidence of a felony, you could be charged with that. But how do you charge the NFL with a felony and then put the NFL in prison? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can find specific people, of course, guilty of a cover-up or crimes, but potentially so. At the same time, there's some laws that exist where you can use those laws to put pressure on people, but in terms of them obscuring or hiding or misprision of a felony, we can't do anything about it until the state finds out about it. So the state's got to have proof that it happened, and then find out that the NFL knew about it. So you're two stages advanced in the history of this conspiracy into the future, right? You're definitely getting ahead of ourselves from where we are. So the state has to find out that it happened, number one, then they have to find out that the NFL definitely knew. And then it's one of these questions. Well, what did the NFL know and when did they know it?
It's a big chasing your tail situation.
There's that, but also we also have to get very, very specific here because this battery charge against him that he's facing 2 to 10 years for, that's definitely a felony. So that's misprision of a felony, but there's also different levels of just to broadly talk about the subject, there's different levels of assault, some of which could be misdemeanor assault. But if he's facing 2 to 10 years, we're definitely in felony territory. His first comments about his arrest in December and the disputed allegations, Von Miller called them false and blown out of proportion. He's indicating that something happened between him and his girlfriend, but it did not approach what it is alleged to have done. So it's possible he just got into his argument and his girlfriend got mad at him and told the police that he punched him. It's entirely possible that she's lying. People do get falsely accused. A police affidavit regarding the alleged assault on November 29th, Miller put his hands on his girlfriend's neck, pulled out some of her hair, and threw her onto a couch. The woman was treated for minor injuries, including bruising on her neck, officers wrote. I wonder if they have pictures of that. Police wrote that Miller became visibly angry when the woman went into an office in their shared apartment and slammed the door behind her. Miller then told her to get out. And then she went to collect her laptop and cell phone, and Miller began pushing her. She repeatedly yelled, "Stop, I'm pregnant." I wonder if he didn't know that at that point, or if that was a lie. Has she given birth since then? I mean, it's October now, and that was November then. Did she have a baby? I guess that's not something that we're going to be privy to. I have to accept that. She fell into a chair after being pushed, and Miller then put one hand on her neck and held it there with pressure from 3 to 5 seconds. According to the document, Miller then threw the woman's laptop on the floor and stomped on it, which is a childish move. She told police she recorded some of the attack, and when she threatened to call the police, he left. The Bills filled Miller's spot on the roster by signing defensive tackle Zion Logue off the Atlanta Falcons practice squad. We don't really care about Logue. So that was more details on what is alleged to have happened. Again, we don't know if it did or did not. It's just something that's very interesting. And it's another case where we don't exactly know what happened, but if he did do something, he should be looking at hard time for that from the law. And if he didn't, he shouldn't be getting suspended. So it's very confusing in terms of what's going on with him. You also mentioned that you wanted to talk about Christian McCaffrey.
I just find it amusing.
Yeah, because they're another team that I hate, but we'll just cover it briefly. But 49ers, Christian McCaffrey is dealing with Achilles tendonitis in both legs. So that guy just can't even walk around or do anything. This from Fox News, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company. Christian McCaffrey's availability for the season continues to get murkier as the weeks go on. Things are even more bleak for the 49ers as star Christian McCaffrey, the running back. He is one of the most efficient players in the NFL. He's part of the reason why they made it to the Super Bowl last year. Head coach Kyle Shanahan confirmed that McCaffrey is dealing with Achilles tendonitis in both of his legs, not just one.
Both of them.
Adam Schefter adds that Shanahan said he's experienced bilateral Achilles tendonitis for some time, but the condition is more concentrated in one leg than the other. Well, what does it matter if he's still got it in both? Schefter points out that this throws an even bigger wrench into the 49ers' plans to have McCaffrey play this year, as it was always expected to be just one Achilles tendonitis issue. Now, it's unclear if McCaffrey has been dealing with both of the legs or an ailment off season, or if this new injury occurred within recent weeks. Either way, it's not the place for a dynamic running back where he wants to be as the 49ers try to chase redemption after losing the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs last season. Christian McCaffrey is a huge reason why Brock Purdy is successful. Brock Purdy can just hand off the ball, and Christian McCaffrey can be explosively productive with it. And so Brock Purdy's not in a position where he often has to make dangerous throws. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, we're in week 4, or technically going into week 5. Every year that Christian McCaffrey has been in the league, every fantasy league, he is the number 1 pick typically to go. And he's the first one to get hurt every fucking time. Every time. Now, I didn't get the number 1 pick in my draft this year, so I don't have him, so I'm not super concerned. I've got other
This
issues.
is why I don't play fantasy football, because it's never your fantasy. It's always some compromised version. And I tell you what, my life doesn't live up to my fantasies. Why does my football team have to not live up to my fantasies?
Yeah, I've got other issues that I'm dealing with, but it's amazing to me. Every year he goes out and he's out for 6-7 weeks. Comes back, he's still a good player. Don't get me wrong, but he's just hurt all the time. It seems like.
Well, he's getting up there in years.
Okay, well, even when he wasn't up there in years.
Well, I mean, running back is. What should I say? It's a tough position to play, and he plays like he puts himself on the line going out there and doing it. So, I mean, that's kind of
talk to anybody in a fantasy league, and they'll say the same thing.
I remember when I used to play fantasy 10 years ago, it was the same thing, though. There would always be top players. I mean, the last year that I played, I think I took Aaron Rodgers the season he got injured. This is before the Jets. Obviously, he had a season where he was out right away, or it might have been Drew Brees. I don't remember who it was, but there was someone who I did very, very well in the draft, and it was the kicker and the quarterback who were both down and out immediately, and it was like my season was already over. And so I feel like you're saying, well, he's this guy that you're trying to imply that he's a glass cannon or something. It's that way every year in fantasy. And after Christian McCaffrey retires, you're going to have someone else who's.
But it's just always him. He's always the number 1 pick, and it's always him that is out either before the season starts and he's out for 4 or 5 weeks, or second game, then he's out. It's just.
I'll have to take your word for it. No one includes me in fantasy anymore, because until I started just having problems like that, I was winning every year. Case in point, the last year that I played fantasy football, the league's name was called Everybody Beat Bates. So I'll just take your word on it. I stopped playing fantasy because I remember just watching the games, and I would, have the ticker on. And this is back when I had NFL Sunday tickets. So I'm watching these players from all over the league. And I can remember once watching the Cowboys play and thinking to myself, well, I really hope the Cowboys win, but I hope Des Bryant has a terrible day, because my opponent for NFL or for fantasy football had Des Bryant. I'm just like, no, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Lincoln would not want us to be playing fantasy football. So I decided to decided to give it up. For my birthday, the Cowboys won. In a sense, that really became just horrible for me, to be honest with you. As I was sitting there watching it in Buffalo Wild Wings, I was not having a good time, except for that one play where CeeDee Lamb caught the ball and ran it down the field in for a touchdown. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of an anecdote that it really has nothing to do with sports, but I'm in the bar. I'm in Buffalo Wild Wings, and there's TVs all around. There's TVs so huge that every time a State Farm commercial comes on, my eyes are blasted with so much red light. I'm literally having to cower, by the way, because my eyes are old. I'm 40. But as CeeDee Lamb runs into the end zone, I do my trademark that I do usually when I'm at home by myself, as loud as I possibly can, Keith, which is damned loud. Hot damn, how about them Cowboys? So that everybody in the place can hear me.
God, I wish there was video of that.
And this old woman sitting on the table next to me, she's 58. She's 300 pounds, and she's taking oxygen through a cannula between bites of chicken wings. Looks over at me and scowls. She looks over at me and scowls. And I said, "Are you not aware, ma'am, that you're at a sports bar during a football game? People are going to be yelling in here. What is wrong with you? And not only that, Grandma, why are you at Buffalo Wild Wings? Like, you like chicken. There's like quieter, non-sports related, less yelly places for you to be getting chicken wings. You could go to Wingstop or whatever." She just looked really out of place, and she just was over the top with expressing her annoyance towards me for being exuberant. And I looks over at her and I says, "You know what? This is my 40th birthday. I'm only half as old as you are. And just because you're dying doesn't mean I don't get to live."
Nicely played, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, she began crying. She said it was the jam and jalapeno, but of course I didn't believe her.
Right, liar.
This from Yahoo Sports, the pinnacle of sports reporting. The Cowboys hold on to beat the Giants in an injury-filled game on Thursday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys are back in the win column, courtesy of the New York Giants. In an ugly, injury-filled Thursday Night Football game, the Cowboys held on for a 20-15 win against their NFC East rivals. The starting quarterback, Dak Prescott's 13th straight win over New York. That is a good statistic for me, and one of the very few that I'm holding on to as I lay down to sleep at night. The Dallas defense was the difference maker, which is not something I will ever be seeing again this year. After back-to-back rough outings against the Saints and the Ravens, the unit locked down the Giants' run game, allowing just 26 yards on the ground and 24 attempts, and forced Daniel Jones to air it out if he wanted to move the ball. Giants rookie Malik Neighbors was up to the task with 12 receptions for 115 yards, but few others were. Prescott, meanwhile, went 22 for 27 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns, while CeeDee Lamb had 98 receiving yards and a touchdown. I want to say this about their running game. It's pretty bad when it's 2nd and 20, you're deep in your own territory, and lined up behind Dak Prescott is number 88, like a running back. When you have wide receiver, your fast wide receiver, your guy that's supposed to be downfield for vertical plays, lined up behind you.
I was thinking about you when
that's how you know you have no running game. That's how you telegraph to the rest of the league, we're fucked for running back stuff.
I totally thought about you. I was
just 2nd and 20, deep in your own territory. You're putting CeeDee Lamb behind you. First of all, it's an obvious passing situation. Even I, who has to play Tecmo Bowl on easy mode, knows this. Okay. But it's 2nd and 20, and you have your downfield deep threat lined up behind you. Mike McCarthy, what are you thinking?
Well, he's not, obviously, or he's thinking we're fucked. That's what he's thinking.
He's really when you're on 2nd down, 2nd and 20. Is he really thinking, well, this game's really going to be about field position, so I just want to give our punter room, to punt?
I was going to text you, and I was like, oh, I'm going to ruin his night if I do that. I'm not texting.
Throw it downfield. Honestly, what I was thinking and screaming to that poor woman with the cannula and the sauce all over her jowls. We just paid this guy to run down the field and make spectacular catches. We just paid Dak Prescott and his blessed right arm to be able to shoot it down there. We just paid big money for the big play in football, which is the 50, 60-yard throw down the field.
The long bomb.
Completion. The long bomb. Thank you. The one-handed catch. the thing that's supposed to play on ESPN all week long. That's what we pay big money for. We paid for this. That's part of the plan, at least in terms of the financial aspects of the Cowboys. So why is number 88 lined up behind him? Why is he lined up in the backfield in the running back position? Why normally in today's league, you've got, a receiver over here, two other receivers over here, and you've got like a tight end who's eligible to receive the ball. And then you've got guys lined up behind you who are normally there for short yardage, who are normally there in case no one gets open.
Some blocks.
In case you want to avoid a sack, in case you want to avoid getting injured, in case he can, power through a seam that you wouldn't be able to push through. That's today's NFL, is that the running back is not the way to advance the ball 10 yards. Yes, it happens. But as you watch, you'll see that slants to the outside and other passing plays are really how it works. So why are you taking your main and only, frankly, passing guy and lining him up behind you? And you're putting these other unknown guys out there on the side. Are you joking right now? I saw this play. I said, bah! I threw my bones all over the floor. And as they came and picked up the bones off the floor, I poured my beer all over them. I was a terrible fan that night. Anyway, both teams were hit big by injuries. Cowboys defensive standout Micah Parsons, Trevin Diggs, and DeMarcus Lawrence all left the game at different points with injuries. Neighbors was ruled out in the fourth quarter with a concussion, which is probably why the Giants didn't win. It wasn't pretty. The Cowboys bounced back against the Giants. Couldn't break through when it mattered. Both teams take a deep breath and hope their stars are okay. Neighbors was ruled out with concussion. As I said, Brandon Aubrey, the best player on the team at this point, missed a kick. He missed his first 50-plus yard field goal attempt of his career. Just ugly game. And the Cowboys are heading into a play against Pittsburgh Steelers. And there's just a bunch of reasons to be concerned. They sit 2-2 after the first month of play. But I was thinking about this as I was driving to work, is that, the Cowboys don't have an identity this year. In recent years, they have been a strong defensive identity. Last year, certainly with Dan Quinn as defensive coordinator. Trevin Diggs, before he was injured, was leading the league in interceptions. He was breaking records in terms of interceptions. Amazingly strong defense. Before that, they kind of went through an era where they had an incredibly good offensive line and great running back play from Ezekiel Elliott. That was part of their identity. But what is their identity now? They suffered 2 defeats. They only secured shaky wins against struggling opponents. This being the Browns and the Giants definitely doesn't speak well for the future. They have a very underwhelming running game, to say the least. I think they literally are 32nd in the league in terms of running yards this year. They have stagnant play calling, diminished pass rush. I've been noticing that both Lawrence and Parsons have not been what they were last year. They do rank last with just 301 rushing yards through 4 games, which we used to see running backs that would have 301 rushing yards in a single game. Just, so you know. They have pass rush pressure rate of 36%, which is down from last year. The expected points added per play stand at 0.07, the lowest in the past 5 seasons. Despite scoring highs in total points, the Cowboys' offensive success primarily stems from special teams contributions. I just said that Brandon Aubrey, their kicker, was the most important player. The talent is there, but creative play calling and execution has been lackluster, further complicating the team's performance evaluation. The play calling ranks in the bottom half of the league. Again, if I notice it, it's pretty bad. Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence with injuries. We've got to address the offensive creativity and optimize player utilization to regain momentum. This is where someone like Bill Belichick comes in. I kind of worry that the Jaguars will snatch him up. We do have ample time. There is time to make adjustments, and we're sitting at 2-2. We're kind of starting in week 5, kind of at 0. So From here, we can still go out there and win the division, but we've got to get hot and we've got to get quick.
From an outside perspective, I mean, I'm watching more Cowboys because I know that's your team. I mean, I love watching football regardless, but
they're America's team. We're all hurting.
We're all hurting. But watching it, you can tell like when a team just isn't clicking in the locker room versus when a team is, right?
Do you think that's what's happening?
I honestly, I mean, looking at it, not all cylinders are firing at the same time. I think there's a locker room issue. We just don't necessarily know exactly what it is.
Their offense is even worse than the key statistic. They're second worst in the league for creating explosive plays. Worst in the league when it comes to generating big plays from the running game. As I said, the running game is just non-existent. Again, when you're putting your star wide receiver behind Dak Prescott, it doesn't make any sense. They only have 4 rushing attempts this year that have gone over 10 yards. 3 of those have come from wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. He's actually doing all plays. Dallas is in the middle of the pack in chunk yardage in the passing game. CeeDee Lamb accountable for a significant portion of the team's 11 catches over 20 yards. There's no excuse for the lack of big plays for the rest of the Cowboys offense. If anyone should have an excuse, it's Lamb, who missed the majority of the offseason due to sorting out his contract. That's his excuse. He chose not to be there. Qualifies it as an excuse now. You got to give him a pass. He was being a baby and didn't show up for practice, so it's not his fault. Part of the issue can be attributed to play calling. They also lack great athletes outside of Lamb and Jake Ferguson. And Jake Ferguson was injured for part of the year. So there's just really nothing going right for Dallas this year, and we knew that there wouldn't be. You guys can recall me back in January, February, saying that, that when Jerry Jones says we're all in for this year, I laughed. And then, I put cyanide in my mouth and thought about swallowing it, but I didn't, just because of this podcast. I did mention Amari Cooper being a viable trade option. Dallas Cowboys and the Amari Cooper could have a reunion, and it could never be more realistic. The Browns are 1-3.
You're at least 2-2, though. You're at least 2-2, not 1-3 like we are.
I was going to ask you about that. I don't know if you saw the graphic or the name of the show today, but it's Pete Rose has passed away, and the Bengals are on life support. Sorry, I didn't mean to dig at you while you're down. But the Browns are 1-3 and could be looking to move this 5-time Pro Bowler before the trade deadline. I'm talking about Amari Cooper. According to Sport Track, the Cleveland Browns converted a majority of his salary into a bonus prior to the start of the season. That leaves just $941,000 in cap hit if the Cowboys were to trade for him today. If Dallas wanted to wait until the trade deadline, Cooper cap hit for a receiver of his caliber would shrink even further to a minuscule $605,000. I think this should do it. I think we love Amari Cooper. I think that he can play well with Dak Prescott. We know the chemistry is there, that he would get up to speed very quickly. That's essentially what he did when we brought him in the first time. I think we went 2-4 before we brought in Amari Cooper last time.
I think it would be cool to see him back there.
I think it would be too. And we need something. We need to do something, not just to win the season, but for anyone to have anything other than contempt for Jerry Jones. He has to make a move of some kind. Do anything, Jerry. We're all looking at this team lying unconscious on the ground, poking Jerry Jones with a stick, saying something. That would be nice. I wanted to mention the Ravens having a strong win. Embarrassing the Buffalo Bills in a Week 4 win. Almost nothing seemed to be going right for the Buffalo Bills in their ugly Week 4 loss against the Ravens. You've got to face them this week. You've got to be even more nervous than you were before. Looks like the Ravens may be division, if not conference contenders. The Bills season started out strong. Fans got excited, and the national media began to talk about the team that could be going to the Super Bowl. Then they fell flat in an ugly loss, prompting both local and national football minds to question the feasibility of them as a contender. Such is the case again following their embarrassing 35-10 loss against the Ravens. The Bills will ultimately recover, especially once their injury-riddled defense recovers. That said, the loss still stings. Right now, there are 4 takeaways from the loss, and this is from Sports Illustrated. This is from the Buffalo Bills sports writer. The Ravens exposed the Bills' depleted defense. For all the kudos that depth linebackers Balin Spector and Dorian Williams have received playing in place of Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano to start the season, they looked like backups against the Ravens. Baltimore took advantage of the injuries and attacked the Bills linebackers, who were out of position and overmatched. The Ravens put up nearly 300 yards in offense for the first half alone.
That's nuts.
They averaged 10 yards per play over the first 2 frames. That's, when you're averaging 10 yards per play, you're just getting first downs every single play.
Yep.
You're running them down. You're just bowling them over. The 2 each showed signs of life as the game progressed, each coming up with a few impact plays in the second half. Well, at one point I'm looking up on the screen and I hadn't been paying attention because I was at work, but I couldn't help but notice that Lamar Jackson wasn't playing. And I'm like, oh my God, did Lamar Jackson get hurt? And I'm like, oh no, I looked at the score and how much time left. They're up by 25 points. There's no way that they could lose the game. So there's no reason for them to do that. Buffalo's offense was also was firing on all cylinders throughout the first part of the season, but miscues were frequent on Sunday, starting with the first drive when Dalton Kincaid had an uncharacteristic drop in the third down play that would have kept the series alive. Later in half, a target to Khalil Shakir fell incomplete for the first time in 30 attempts. These miscues continue with a beautiful deep throw to Keon Coleman going through his hands and falling to the ground. General gaffes result in the Bills putting just 10 points on the board in Baltimore this after averaging north of 37 points over the first 3 weeks. The offense was getting too cute. Momentum was shifting in the Bills' favor to start the second half, despite entering halftime down 21-3. Buffalo forced Baltimore 3 and out to open the second half, got the ball, and then took the ball to the field for 6. The Bills then followed that up by forcing another 3 and out. However, after a few plays to move the ball down the field, offensive coordinator Joe Brady called what looked like a reverse flea flicker.
This is the dumbest. I watched this and I was like,
I don't like reverses in general just because they take too long anymore. For the NFL's just too fast to run a play like a reverse most of the time. And flea flickers are gadget plays for when what normally isn't working for you. When what normally works for you is not working, and
it's when you go to the last page of the playbook.
You're on the last page, just hoping that you can fool them with a flea flicker. It's a move of desperation, in which Curtis Samuel took a direct snap, and I don't, exactly. When you have other players taking direct snaps, it's not much of a surprise what's going to be happening. And throwing the ball to the quarterback who was lined up at receiver, the ball resulted in Josh Allen getting hit as he was thrown and fumbled. Yeah, Josh Allen likes getting hit, though, and he likes playing every single play like it's the last play of the Super Bowl. So he was probably keyed up for that.
Or the last play of his life.
And Allen's a big player, so, he can take hits and not get hurt. He took a hard hit after the attempted throw and was slow to rise. This was by far the worst call of the night and the worst called game since Joe Brady took over as OC. The Bills will be fine, though. Buffalo was bullied and embarrassed on Sunday night against the Ravens. If you ask me, this just sets up perfectly for the playoffs when they get to a rematch against the Ravens and they get to go out there and have their revenge. The game serves as a reminder that the NFL is a week-to-week league, and you have to be ready to play every game. Buffalo looked like a Super Bowl front runner a week ago, and cellar dwellers tonight. It's okay. The Bills will be fine. All-pro nickel defender Teron Johnson and starting middle linebacker Terrell Bernard will be back soon, potentially this week. This should mitigate much of the worries there. I'm still not. I picked Buffalo to win this week. We're about to get in there. I wanted to talk about the Vikings taking the number 1 spot in the power rankings, the Commanders and the Buccaneers also being near the top. But you know what? We're over time here. So I just wanted to get into our week 4 picks. Here's let's see. What were your these are our picks for this coming week. Oh, here's the results from last week. Kiefer went 8-8. He was 500.
I love that graphic.
Thank you. It's just like the Cowboys. You're at 500 starting in week 4. We didn't start earlier this season, or at least I didn't even suggest it to Keith, because in the first month of NFL play, after a long off season and all the moves and all the personnel changes that happens, you have no idea who's going to be good. Yeah, you have an idea that the Chiefs are going to be good, but there's always hope every year that the Chargers are going to be good, and then look what happens. So we waited a month, and now hopefully we can be diligent and keep track of how well we're doing. Now it's on, and we'll obviously be doing 18 weeks till the Super Bowl. I am now leading by 2 games. You can look for this to continue. As Kiefer has made some strange picks this week. Here's the overall standings in the NFL. You can see that the NFC has been drinking again, with Minnesota being out front 4-0. Teams like Tampa Bay, which barely won the division last year. Washington, which hasn't won the division since Alex Smith went out there and had his comeback season. And Washington, which generally just doesn't win the division as a matter of course. If you look at how they've played since the 2002 realignment, I think they've only won the division once or twice. Seattle, of course, being out in front in a division that has the Rams and the 49ers, kind of surprised. Cardinals look like they might be spoilers this year, but Seattle's commanding the West right now. Here's my picks for this week. You can see that I've got Tampa Bay over Atlanta. Minnesota's going to roll past the Jets. Chicago's going to blow out Carolina. I believe Baltimore. Kiev is going to take down Cincinnati at home. Buffalo's, I think they're going to have a comeback game against Houston. I believe Houston may even be favored in this contest. Indy's going to beat Jacksonville. Indy's going to take care of Jacksonville. Indy just took down the Steelers, so Jacksonville being terrible. I think they haven't won a game since last November. I think they're going to be fine. I think New England's going to beat Miami. Washington's going to roll over Cleveland, as many other teams have. Las Vegas, I think, is going to take care of Denver. San Fran's going to roll over Arizona. I think San Francisco's coming back even without Christian McCaffrey, just because I think Arizona will fold. Seattle's going to take care of the Giants because I think the Giants are a terrible team. Green Bay is going to come back against the Rams. The Rams look like they're falling flat. Dallas is going to win against Pittsburgh just because I think Pittsburgh also sucks. I'm not saying anything about Dallas. And I think Kansas City is going to roll over the Saints. Here's Keith's pick. He's also got Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Chicago. He took Cincinnati, which he's legally required to do. He picked Houston over Buffalo. He also took Indy over Jacksonville. He thinks that Miami will beat New England, in contrast to me. He also picked Cleveland over Washington, a move which totally baffled me. He agrees with me on Las Vegas. He thinks Arizona will beat San Francisco, probably with the Christian McCaffrey news. He also chose Seattle. He also chose Green Bay to beat the Rams. He chose Dallas, possibly as an act of kindness. And as proof that he just hates Patrick Mahomes, he picked the Saints to beat the Chiefs, which would be the upset of the week. So that's where we look for this coming week. So now we're on the record. And so now as everything plays out, we can be fair and balanced and show everyone how well we're doing.
Hey, our December 19th matchup, Bengals at Dallas.
Neither one of us cares now, right?
I think you should take off work and we should live stream while the game's going on, live reaction.
I think I'm off that night, yeah.
I think we should do that. We should
I am
live stream for the whole game.
Why not? Yeah, we can watch the game. It's going to be on ESPN, right?
I believe so. I
have to buy ESPN for a month, or how does I normally watch it? Sling TV or something?
Yeah, I'll give you. Well, I won't say it.
I'll give you my secret password. Absolutely, we could make a night of it.
I think that would be fun.
Let's plan on it, because by that point I won't give a shit anyway. So you guys
probably won't either.
You guys could see why not even other Cowboys fans watch games with me. And what I'm worried is that the last time you and I were talking live during a Cowboys game, there was some delay. And so it could have been during a Bengals game, but I was sending you like, "Oh, great. Awesome, Keith."
Oh, yeah,
and you're just like, "What are you talking about? It's a commercial." And I'm like, "Oh." And then it catches up with you. And then, Joe Burrow threw a completion for 30 yards or something.
Well, that's true. I didn't think about that aspect, but we can.
So we're just going to have to carefully watch the other guy. I have to wait until you're sad before I can cheer, and vice versa, So we're going to have to both be very expressive just to make sure that we're in the right place. So wanted to thank everybody who's in our chats. Not many people today. We appreciate you. And I'm just glad that T. Martin's not here. I still haven't forgiven you for having an opinion. Thanks to Mur530, to Hydroman Blue. It looks like Bosco's here. There he is. Yeah, I did have to check with specific people. It's not like it'll matter. That's like Hillary Clinton's old going to jail for the Steelers Steele dossier, and she's squeaky clean. I don't know what you're talking about, but I promise you I agree with you. Oh, you're talking about the proof of the crime for Von Miller. Yeah, I think that they would cover it up. Or, just Lyle Menendez. He also bleach bit his parents' brand new will, just so that a new will couldn't come to surface or come to light that he was not a part of. So, yeah, that stuff goes on. Keith, when's the next episode of One More and I'm out of here?
I believe we're going Friday at either 4 or 5, I believe.
All right. Well, good luck to your Bengals. If you can beat the Ravens, that will definitely juice up your team.
Yes.
Especially since you have to play them twice this year. If you can at least go 500 against the Ravens, that's a good year for the Bengals considering where you're at. So I do sincerely mean it. Good luck to you. Wish us luck against the Steelers, against your arch rivals.
Beat the shit out of the Steelers.
On Sunday night. I'll be at home watching that game. I, of course, do hate the Steelers. We have a very long and storied rivalry with them, going back all the way to that fucking cheater, Terry Bradshaw. Fucking hate that guy.
Maybe I'll FaceTime you Sunday night, too.
Maybe I'll be at home. So
Oh shit, I'll be at work. Never mind. I
you'll
won't
be
there.
you'll be at work. You'll be putting your balls on the line for precious antique buildings on fire. All right, guys. Well, we hope you all have a great week. Thanks to those of you who did listen to Illegal Shift. I just want to say that we do put a lot of work into it. We care about this show. It's not the most beloved, possibly because we're a redheaded stepchild, right? We're part of a podcast branch that extends from Mike the Cop, a man who at one point openly said that he hates sports, does not care about sports, and obviously those are the kind of people that he attracted. I'm someone that listened to Mike the Cop talk. I'm someone that still likes sports. I'm someone that does look at situations with athletes critically, both in terms of their market value, real world economics, and the law. And so we do talk about true crime as it relates to sports on here. We talked about Ray Lewis and other things, but some of us are not interested in politics. We know that politics is interested in us. We know that the world wants to destroy America. We know that America wants to destroy itself. We know that the republic and democracy, both concepts which are inherently flawed because people do not want freedom, because freedom comes with responsibility. They want a state of convenience. They want a nanny state. They just want someone to do all the precious thinking for them. Since politics is not going to get better regardless of who is elected next month, let's face it, gang, it's just not going to happen. Even if Trump gets in, Congress is going to make it just as difficult for him as they did the last time he was in office. And then even after Trump's gone, what then? Although, Keith, I did want to ask you if you were impressed by J.D. Vance's performance.
I was actually. I think
Tim
Walz
he seemed very articulate, very level-headed, very normal. It's been a while since I've heard a Republican talk normally about such things. I mean, the last time we kind of went through this would have been when Mike Pence was in his place several years ago. But J.D. Vance sounds and looks good, and he's a young guy, so he could be a prospect for the future. So it'd be nice to have some kind of hope or some kind of conservative future outside of Donald Trump. But let's admit it too that J.D. Vance is also part of a Trump narrative at this point, so we don't know how he'll change his views or his stances on things in the future, because all politicians do. All right, guys, that's it for us on this week's episode of Illegal Shift. Do catch another episode of One More, and I'm out of here on Friday. Keith, thinking about you as you are in grief over Pete Rose. He is important to you, and hopefully he gets into the Hall of Fame soon. Hopefully you and I both get to see that.
I appreciate that.
And go Cowboys, I guess. I don't know if you wanted to just throw the season so we could draft somebody, maybe a running back, that would be fine. Or maybe Jerry Jones will, go hang out with Pete Rose soon or something. I don't know. Because he's like the same age, isn't he?
Probably. I mean, he looks like he's 183. But...
He looks like Yoda. I know. All right. I never know how to end the show. We've come to the end, friends. It's time to say goodbye. So guns up, giddy up. Good night, America.
Good night, America.
Bye.